The Dark Fog are tenacious robots that burrow into a planet and extract matter and energy from the core. But uncomfortable game shorts will teach you how to destroy bases and defend your planet. Early on, you probably won't have the health or firepower to remove these bases. You can see how many bases are on your planet as well as how many hives are orbiting your system in the top left corner. When the threat bar fills up, the fog will send a small group of attackers towards your buildings. If you click on the HUD name, it'll give you a red line directing you to the enemy. Try placing a strong, defendable part of your base closest to the enemy base. The fog typically goes straight towards the nearest buildings, so that's where I set up my defenses and went during an attack. Make sure to rotate your turrets to face the enemy threat. They'll spin in place and fire, but they'll fire sooner if they're already facing the right direction. Missile turrets have their own range, but you can add to this by placing signal towers around your planet. They allow the missile turrets to attack anything within the signal tower's range, and this includes threats from space. All you have to do is get a signal tower close to the enemy, and you can recharge under them as well. Battlefield analysis bases can repair buildings and pick up loot dropped by the Dark Fog. I explain more about this in another video. Enemy bases have several building types. The tall ones that look like flowers are turrets, so keep moving once they notice you. The sooner you destroy the squat triangular buildings which spawn enemies, the better. Go into combat mode by pressing Z, shoot at the buildings from afar, and splash damage from cannon fire is excellent here. Note that you can use combat drones, but they can die quickly, and I saved on resources by not using them until I unlocked a ton of squadrons. With the base dead, you'll have a hole in the ground where the Dark Fog was sapping energy. If you leave it, the orbiting base will try to rebuild after a while. If you attack the orbiting base directly, you'll aggravate the hive in space, and when its threat level maxes, it'll send some spaceships to laser your planet. Instead, use one of these two options. Fill the hole with soil, removing the hole and the orbiting base, or even better, place a geothermal power station on the hole to get a ton of power, more than you would on a typical lava pool. Once you start visiting new planets, press V to enter the star map. Click on the planet and select the magnifying glass to see if any fog bases are already there. To establish a foothold, try getting power with solar panels, charged batteries, or other means. Then link power towards the enemy and place 3 to 4 laser turrets and maybe a battlefield analysis base. Go into combat mode and start shooting down the enemy bases that produce units while your lasers help thin out the waves. Once you clear your first base, build a power station, and then you'll have lots of power to play with as you repeat these steps. And I mentioned in another video how you can use logistic buildings without power, which is so useful for transporting some key startup items on a new planet. Once you've cleared out the enemy and moved on to new projects, the Dark Fog might drop new bases while you're gone, but luckily, if the threat level gets too high, it'll show up on your HUD in the top left, tipping you off to their presence. Sometimes it'll drop a base within range of your defenses, which will destroy it, and it may not even appear when you manually check a planet for Dark Fog parasites from the star map. But this wasn't a big concern in my game. I was afraid I'd be wasting too many missiles constantly destroying dropped bases, but the fog tends to drop more bases in other spots, and once that threat level increased, I'd visit and find extra holes to drop power stations on. On normal fog difficulty, I easily defended all planets with 3 missile turrets and signal towers linked across the planet's surface. I also added 1 plasma turret which specialized in space defense for insurance against the hive. The Dark Fog can only set new bases on unshielded areas, but don't cover your entire planet too soon. Wait to get enough geothermal power stations to support whatever operation you want to run there, and then shield it from the enemy. Also, I tried to keep signal towers away from the area where I was baiting the fog to drop a base so that it would increase in threat level and let me know of its presence. There's 2 ways to see your shield's coverage. Click on the shield generator and then the globe in the display panel, or click the planet viewer in the bottom left, hotkey M, and toggle the show box in the top left. Shields have a charging state when first initiated. You'll need to wait before it starts to put up a shield, and even then, it'll take some time to grow to full coverage. Once all the terrain is covered, even by the thinnest of blue from your shield, the Dark Fog won't be able to place bases there anymore. This is when I would add brackets to a planet's name to remind me that it was shielded, and as long as no buildings rise above your shield and you set up missile and plasma turrets like I suggested, you can virtually forget about visiting this planet to defend from hive attacks. However, if your buildings are damaged or destroyed, you'll see an indicator at the top of your screen. The wrench means the building was damaged. Click on this indicator to get a white line straight to it. If you get a white bar with a red gear behind it, that means the building was destroyed. Luckily, it'll be replaced by a ghost of the building and will automatically rebuild if you get close and have more in your inventory. We're not done yet. This uncomfortable game short guide will show you the final steps on how to kill a hive and find the enemy's secret communicator. Before you go, sub to find my underrated content again.